I'd like to start the meeting. First thing I'd like to say is that this meeting is being recorded. And I believe now we can hand it over to the entry point people to hear the latest.
Yep. All right, great. So there's three things I think we wanted to cover tonight. One, Jeff is going to give a little education session. Then Eric is going to summarize just the initial responses to the survey. We'll take a little time, obviously, to organize and the thoughts on that and organize all the information to provide to you. And then the last thing is just discuss the feasibility level design plan. So looks like Jeff's ready, so I'll have Jeff go ahead and start.
How's everybody?
Great. Very good.
Good. I can't see. Who do we have on the Dartmouth side? I heard Peter's voice.
Yeah, it's Peter, Saul, Aaron, and Sarah are here.
Hello.
There you go.
Okay. Hey, everybody.
How are you?
I get this. All right. So we've talked about this at times. I think it does help to consolidate. So as I understand it, the focus would be, the focus is on why public versus private, and there are advantages to both. Is that right, Brad? Did I capture that correctly?
Yeah, I think we titled it the eight reasons for a municipality to own the infrastructure.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right. So this will be a little bit redundant, at least for some of you. But we'll go through them, and then if you guys have any questions, we can just stop me as we walk through it. So I'll go into presentation mode. Can you see that okay, everybody?
Yep.
The first is, I think at least some of the committee, if not all the committee, believes this is now essential infrastructure. And for elected bodies, often we can get them to agree this is essential infrastructure, but then the reality is, if it really is essential, we have a classification for those things, and it's called a utility. So if it really is essential, then we start to think about them and manage them as utilities. And so that's, the alternative. And Brad and I are spending quite a bit of time interacting with infrastructure funds and private equity firms that invest in this space. And we can tell you with confidence that the way they look at this is that you build to the business model, which in their minds, you build to those homes and businesses that fit their business model, and you don't build to the others. So that could be a lack of density, or it could be, it may be demographics. So they may, in their business model, it may not fit a certain demographic that they want to build to those areas. And so they don't think about it as a utility infrastructure. It's amenity infrastructure for them. And so that's one of the distinctions. I think it's a key distinction. It's easier to get political bodies to agree that it's essential than it is to get them to treat it like it's essential and start to assume that we're going to get it to everybody. So that's one. You're all familiar with this slide. We've talked about it multiple times. Because of the lack of density in Dartmouth, a question is, when will you get fiber? A bigger question is, when will everybody in Dartmouth get fiber? Because there are certain neighborhoods that will be attractive to a fiber overbuilder, but not all of Dartmouth will be attractive because of the density issues. So, another reason is to get fiber and to get it to everybody, where right now cable's dominating your availability. We also talked about this. We think it's inevitable that there's going to be, just like there was a cable industry consolidation, we know there's going to be a fiber consolidation because it's already started to happen. So when it happens, we think you're likely to end up with a monopoly like you have now with cable. And we know, because of the different clients we work with, the residents of Dartmouth are paying, I think national averages are pushing down into the $70 to $80 range for a gig. And we know in Dartmouth, you're not getting a gig and people are paying between 100 to 130. So I'll bet you on average, if we really parse the data, you're probably paying $50 more a month for less than people are getting in other areas. And part of that, a big part of that is that you've got a monopoly effectively right now. And there's no threat today of a fiber overbuilder. So we think it's inevitable. You will get fiber. We don't know when. You'll get it. You're likely to then have a fiber monopoly, and they'll behave like a monopoly most likely. So that's a third reason. So another is to control your destiny, to control your long-term infrastructure. And as we've talked, we don't think this infrastructure is any less important than your road system. Obviously, there are tangible benefits to the town of Dartmouth owning its own roads. And so ownership, governance, setting the business model, those are multiple reasons, but controlling your destiny as it relates to this infrastructure is important. And it's the only way you're going to stop the monopoly, we believe. The committee hasn't decided that you want open access, but if you do, it's likely that the way you're going to get open access is for it to be publicly sponsored infrastructure. So if you want people to have choice among service providers, the sure path to that is for it to be publicly owned. So another reason: choice, competition, pressure on price. Another is to make this distinction between. This is not what I was going for. I'll come back to the idea. This is really it. I don't know if any of you saw that the FBI director was in front of Congress last week. Did any of you know that?
I saw it.
So he was there to talk about cybersecurity, and the main point was that in general, U.S. infrastructure is very susceptible to cybersecurity attacks, and they're seeing it every day. So he targeted China. He said a lot of actors from China, they believe are sponsored by the Chinese government, are hacking into U.S. infrastructure, probing vulnerabilities, identifying where there are vulnerabilities. And so the general message is that the infrastructure that's critical, so that would be SCADA systems, electrical grid, water systems, wastewater systems, all of that. All these systems are constantly being probed and under attack. And if you put in a system that can separate internet traffic from private networks that are local only, not going out onto the public internet, then you're going to be able to eliminate or significantly reduce the probability that your systems are vulnerable to these attacks. So we know they're going to increase, they're not going to decrease. And so key thing is, how do you put your critical infrastructure in a position where you can protect it and isolate it from outside attacks. This is really a cost message. We went through this when I was back there. So, you're going to pay less if it's publicly owned because the cost of capital is less. And you're going to be able to finance it over 30 years, 20 to 30 years. But you could do it 30 years if that's your choice. So cost of capital is lower. The the time to recover, in a private business model, they want to recapture the return on investment 5 to 10 years. Because the town wouldn't look at it the same way that a private investor would. You can push it out. So net, we're saying in here, the public ownership is going to be 65, where private's going to be 75. The tough news is because of just your lack of density, you're going to likely end up with a monopoly. It's either going to be a publicly owned monopoly or a privately owned monopoly. And 75 is probably being quite generous over the long haul. They're going to probably make as much as they can, and they're going to push those numbers up. So $10 doesn't seem like it's a huge factor, but the big factor is you're going to be able to keep the costs low for the long term. Where in private ownership, the tendency is to push those costs up and maximize the revenue opportunity off of them. So I think over time, it'll start to look a lot like what you're seeing today, where the delta could be $50 and not $10. We think you could, we've got some work to do before we can say with confidence 65, and that's really a consequence of your density. But regardless, the issues are the same, which are private ownership's going to cost capital is going to be higher. The window for return on investment is shorter, and they're going to want to maximize the opportunity. And a utility just doesn't work that way. So those are the key items. And it's really review for all of you. This is more detail on those financing. Questions, comments on any of that?
No, I'm good. Anybody else?
No questions from me.
No.
No.
Okay, we'll send you the deck just so it's concise. So obviously, as the committee advances this forward, you're going to want to be able to be concise in explaining the pros and cons to your elected body. So you've seen these slides before, but we'll consolidate it, and you'll have this to lean on as you advance your work.
Great.
Awesome.
Okay, Brad?
Thanks, Jeff. Sorry. So Eric, do you want to just pull up the preliminary survey results and just kind of give the group an idea of where everything came in? I don't think there was anything shocking that we saw so far.
Yes. Did everyone see that? Mm-hmm. Okay, so these are the survey results that we've received so far. There's still some information like anything that you had to type in, other questions, stuff like that we still need to compile together. But this is most of the data right here. And
So we ended up with 1,064 responses, which is good. I think our goal was 1,000. So thanks for all your help pushing that.
Great job. And so nothing surprising, 99% residential. That's generally how we see it. Moving down, what are people using their internet for? Again, that spot right there, that's information that we'll have here in a little bit for you. And stop me if you have any questions or want to talk about anything as we go down this, but I'm just kind of running through
Could
it.
you zoom in a little bit
Yeah,
more?
my eyes must be going. I think I'm getting old.
There we go. Thank you very
That better?
much.
Can you go back?
Yeah, can you go back?
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad I wasn't the only one struggling.
Thank you.
All right, from the top. The residential business. What are you using your internet for? And then I can't fit it all on one screen, but the
Wait.
percentages are right there.
All right, can you go, just,
Go back up to the chart, Eric, and just hold on the
okay,
chart for a
it's okay.
second. Yeah, there you go. So, I mean, obviously there's a lot of overlap there, but I don't think there's anything
okay.
unexpected as to what you see most people using it for.
Great.
Go ahead.
You want to see the percentages? Is the graph enough?
The graph was fine.
So this one, I mean, I don't think it's a surprise, but 96% of them have a wired connection. Small percentage used only their phone, and only 4 said they didn't have internet. So, which makes sense. You know, the people that respond most likely are the people with service in most cases.
Tends to be. And what type of wired internet service do you have? Looks like Comcast has a pretty big chunk at
And that just goes to
98%.
Jeff's point. I mean, you have
Some people slept.
pretty close to a Comcast monopoly right now in the area.
Mhm.
Small number on other services. I mean, 1,000 out of 1,065, that's a pretty high number.
And that's small, 3% of other and 5%, or sorry, 3 others and 5 I don't knows. Why don't you have internet service? So everybody who marked that, not affordable to them is what they're saying. Not that they don't have it available to them, but it's just not affordable. And then for the cellular, for the 40 people that answered to that, 5G and 4G seem to be the two that people have chosen. And again, some I don't knows. And then for everyone that did have some type of internet service, this is where they answered their overall reliability. Looks like the majority here are good and fair. Some trickle into excellent and poor. Puts us at 41% for good, 33% for fair, and 12% for the other two. For overall speed, looks about the same. Good and fair. And then for overall cost, a lot of people move to poor at 67% and fair at 26%.
So related to the cost, we did get a lot of responses with specifically what they're paying. And we'll compile that. I heard you talking at the beginning of the call a little bit, those that were there, that about, we did not receive any bills from anyone. Is that still correct, Derek? No, zero?
Yeah, 0 bills.
There's 2 sides that we like to see them for. One, to make sure they're including everything because they could have additional costs for modems, taxes, et cetera. But also some people, you know, when somebody says my cost is $220, they're probably including their TV or other things that they're getting. So it's helpful, but we have pretty good data. So we'll use not only what they responded, but we also go actually specifically out to each of the carriers and get what their advertised prices are. So I think one of the questions earlier was how necessary were those billings? They're nice. They're not necessary. I mean, it's not. We'll still be able to get pretty good detail to you on that.
So I had a meeting earlier this week with our Council on Aging and a community outreach guy that does a lot of grant stuff with people and try to get them help. And so he said that he's got probably a lot of cable bills and bills from people. He just needs to double check with them that he could share it with us. So he was supposed to work on that this week. So I wanted to give him through to like maybe middle of next week, and then I'll follow up with him. So we might be able to get you like a half a dozen.
Yeah, that'd be great. Anything we can get just helps validate a little bit. But they say it's not going to, I wouldn't say that the information is not going to be valid because we don't have it, because we will compare it to what we know they're charging.
Yep.
But this is, and as you can see here, I mean, that's number one complaint is that it costs too much.
Yeah. And then lastly, customer service, which both rank in that fair and poor, 43% fair and 38% poor. Which I don't know if that's a surprise to anybody.
I had just a personal story here. I actually just recently canceled my Xfinity service, and I could not do it online. They do not, at least in my area, they do not allow it to be canceled online. We have fiber now to our premise, so signed up for fiber. number one. And number two, it took me several days to actually speak to a person that could shut it off. And they made me spend a long time on the phone before they'd actually do it. So this is obviously not surprising.
It's like trying to cancel a gym membership.
Exactly. They didn't shame me though, but they definitely gave me a lot of flack and made it very challenging.
And then this question is one of those that will collect that data and let you know. So we had 942 people that responded with their amount that they're paying. And then at what price point would you consider a fast and reliable internet connection to be affordable? The majority, 41 to 60, and then second is 61 to 80. And that's pretty close between 21 to 40 and 81 to 100.
That falls.
Yeah, I think that kind of validates if you were to go the direction of municipal provided fiber, if you can get it in the 60 to 70 range, I think that's going to be pretty attractive.
I'm noticing that number falls in line with cellular line cost.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
About 50, 60 bucks a month is what people are comfortable paying for a cell.
Well,
So it kind of makes sense. It
if you're
falls-
driving a big truck, it's a tank of gas. You know what I mean? That's the way that so a
True
lot of
story.
people probably look at it. You know what I mean?
Sorry.
It's nice to not see that everybody's saying $0.
Right, that's what I was afraid of.
Hoping that it's free.
I would pick the 0 to 20.
Yeah, 16 people are with you. And then down to what is the most important when choosing your internet? It looks like it's between speed and reliability, then the price, unlimited data, and customer service. So speed and reliability are the two number ones that people chose.
The cost would be up there.
And then down here are the numbers if you want to see the percentages of how people chose those. I don't know if you can really see that where it is, but maybe that will help. And then to the town of Dartmouth is considering to build a community-owned fiber network throughout the town. Would you be interested? And the numbers were at 75% yes, 23.3% possibly I need more information, and 2% no. So you see that there is some support for, or at least interest in the idea, but they
Does
can
that
hear
fall
more
in
about
line
it.
with other surveys you guys have done with other communities?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Where about everybody is.
Yeah, typically, I mean, if anything, I would say maybe there's sometimes a few more of the no's because there's a few more people skeptical of government-owned anything, but I think it's pretty, I mean, it's a good response, very positive.
And then the rest is information that we'll get to you, but just personal information, stuff like that.
Yeah. So there were a lot of comments. One question I would have is how, I mean, would you like us to summarize those or to just provide a document with all the comments so the members can read through those? Or how would you like to see those comments? We can't really quantify them. I mean, we can tell you this is how many, but what's your thoughts on that?
I'd like to see them sorted with the funniest ones at the top.
There are some good ones.
There are definitely some good ones.
I actually wouldn't
So-
mind seeing them.
I would be interested to see them as well.
I'd like to read them.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was thinking is we would just create a document. Like I say, we can't really summarize those,
Were there
but we
any,
could,
were there any comments about how it would be funded? Because I know that there's
Yes.
a lot of concern in the town about that right now.
A lot of comments on, is this coming from our taxes? A lot of comments. There's a mixture of comments of support and people wondering where it's coming from and funny comments. Yes, there are quite a few. So it's kind of, yeah, it'd be, I'm guessing, nice for you guys to see a compiled list of all of them so you can
Yeah,
see.
'cause we
I
have-
don't know off the top of my head how many there were.
We have competing requirements in the town, you know, between the school department and the sewer department and then this. So capital is starting to bubble more. And so we need to understand what some of those comments look like, sound like.
There are, just so you know, there are 252 comments.
Okay, good.
People
That's okay. Some light reading
out
if
of
I
the
go to sleep.
1,000.
So we will put that together and try and get that to the committee within a week or so here, so that you can review the comments. And then the others, all of the other information we'll summarize. We can probably, Eric, we can summarize the costs, I would assume, also within a week. So
Yeah.
now that we've got all the responses, so we'll try to get a summary with the things that we didn't show you here, and get that as well as these. And then in our final report, we'll organize these much better and put narrative around them, all the data from the survey.
Great, thank you very much.
Awesome.
Let's see. The last thing, so we sent out, we talked last time about doing the feasibility study. We got back information from both, but based on the budget, I think our recommendation, and I think this got out to the group, was that we would probably, so the Quanta study really is the additional value you get from doing a Quanta study really is there if you do the entire town. Without doing the entire town, some of the comparative stuff really doesn't provide a lot of value. So our recommendation is if you have money in the budget, let's maximize the number of premises that we can get through a BRE study. As a refresher, I think I think in one of the first meetings we kind of talked about BRE and what the study looks like and what it will provide. Just so from that, that's what we're going to use as the basis for most of our financial modeling. What we will do is if we choose a subset of the town, we will do two models. We'll do a model of that subset, which will be more accurate. And then from that, we'll extrapolate a model for the entire town. We'll also look at various ways to build it. One of the things I know we talked about a full Ethernet network. There are some advantages, and in the report we'll specify what the advantages of a full Ethernet network and where the real advantage of that comes, particularly as some of the things Jeff talked about, like if the town's going to go to the expense of building a network and they want to be able to offer a lot of town services off the internet, then Ethernet all the way from the home office to the premise gives you some abilities that you don't get with a PON network. PON network is what most people around the country are building PON networks. They're typically quite a bit cheaper. And by quite a bit, I would say 20 to 40% cheaper because you don't need as many fiber counts for a PON network because it's shared, where an Ethernet-based network is going to be basically a direct, one strand per customer.
Are you doing?
If you offer a gigabit service on an Ethernet network, they're not sharing that gigabit with 16 or 32 or 64 local premises. It's dedicated. So there's some distinct advantages, but obviously there's costs associated with that. In addition, some of the equipment along the way, the Ethernet network requires more robust equipment. So, but as part of this study, we're going to provide you with information on both sides of that.
Just a question, are you proposing like a layer 1 Ethernet private line type of design, or are you doing a switched Ethernet?
Switched Ethernet.
Okay.
Well, we're not proposing that, but we will price it out for a switched.
Whichever way, what would the design entail if it was a, Ethernet private line or switched Ethernet? So you're going to do switched Ethernet. Switched
Ethernet, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, basically, as I say, and then with the switched Ethernet, each premise in essence has its own connection. And like I say, there's definitely some advantages to that, but there are costs associated with it. I am not the ultimate technical guy, so that's about as far as I can go as far as explaining that. But the report will have details on everything related to that. And so what we would get out of either study, but I'll focus on the BRE for now, is we're going to get, let me actually share a quick document here. I can figure out how to share this.
While you do, just a question, would we be,
Yes.
would this be offered to UMass? As, because if we're doing switched Ethernet, you know, you would need to have hubs in different locations. I'm wondering if UMass Dartmouth would be on that, in that discussion, or
It
have
could
they
be. We
expressed
had a
an interest?
meeting, I think, didn't we meet with them earlier, Peter? We had a conversation with their current provider.
We did.
They were there, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's certainly something that we could be offered there. They currently have a system. And so we would coordinate. We've worked before with their provider. What's the name of that, Jeff, again?
Open Cape.
Okay.
Open Cape.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, I think UMass is willing to talk to us and be in the discussion, but right now their hands are tied with how they can buy service. They're part of the whole university system.
Okay.
And so they're basically buying it as a group from
Yeah, I remember
everywhere.
talking to him about that.
So, but they're willing to, come down and talk and, they do have some ideas on if we had some dark fiber that we put out there, that they might be looking to,
grab some string.
grab some stuff between, especially like the law school and the campus.
Sure, okay.
Because, right now they're just using Comcast stuff to do that, because it's kind of like they don't have the.
There's nothing there,
Right.
yeah.
So,
Okay.
so there was some talk about that, and then maybe also if they start branching out a little bit to, like they have a campus in New Bedford, so they might purchase some dark fiber from us to get to like the New Bedford line, if there's something that will get them the rest of the way down the beach.
They've got the art school too in the strip mall.
Right, so, and that was the other thing they brought up, was the art school that was in the strip mall, and it would help them, like, in those situations, if there was some dark fiber out there, but, that was the only thing that they kind of thought would help them in this situation.
Okay, so not lit services, but dark, okay.
Right.
So just quickly, I won't go into detail on this, but so basically from BRE, we've showed you the maps before, but we will get maps that will show where the fiber needs to be run, where we would need to place enclosures, cabinets, huts, pits, etc. So I was just kind of showing you, this is kind of a diagram of roughly the various types of things that BRE kicks out. From there, they will kick out a bill of materials. This is just a sample of a bill of materials. So it's going to give us the number of feet and quantity for all of the items needed to build the network. From there, we'll go into a construction estimate, break it down by the type, bore, plow, trench, the aerial, all the various things. From BRE's thing, we're getting the quantities. We'll add on top of that a component for estimated labor for all of that. And in the end, come up with a projected cost to build out the entire town. As I said, if we choose to do a subset, we'll do a projected cost for that subset, as well as a projected cost for the entire town, both for Ethernet and PON, so you can see the differences in that. And then we'll build out a financial model from that will actually kind of show, what if you charge this much, how would that work? What would the payback be? I mean, in any scenario, we would expect this to be self-sustaining. So whether it was, depending on how the city could fund it or if they chose to fund it, but whether it's through bonds or whatever, the idea would be it would be self-sustaining and there would not need to be any long-term taxpayer money, but it's either going to have to be guaranteed by taxpayer money or the city or town or bring in outside funding. And as Jeff mentioned, the outside funding, just the main difference there is just the cost of money. We're still seeing municipal bonds, I believe, still sub 4%. Is that correct, Jeff? The last one we saw? Yeah, the last one I saw, we were looking at a project in Oregon. That's actually, I think these financials that I've got on the screen are from that project. But KeyBank came in at sub 4% for the funding. And as Jeff said, if you go out to the private market, you're going to, a a taxable bond is probably going to be in the 6 to 8%, and anything beyond that is going to be significantly more than that. So I guess the question I have is, what's the committee's thoughts on doing a study, and if so, should we go with the BRE? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, it seems,
I think it,
I think it's worthwhile having that information.
Do you have we talked a little bit about like, it would be best for us to have you provide us with some general boundaries of what you'd like to look at.
Yeah.
I know people sent some information in that. Is there someone we can work with that, you don't have to come back and say, okay, let's find exactly 5,000 premises. I would say, come back with the general area and say, this is what we'd like to see. And then we can take that to BRE and say, using these boundaries, tell us exactly where that's going to be. And
So-
we've got a good relationship with BRE. So if it makes sense to do a little bit more than that, I'm pretty sure we can talk them into doing it for the price or for the dollars we have available.
So this is kind of like a map that shows the different parcels, and obviously, as you see, like where the darker yellows are, or darker, if you want to call it orange, that's where like the population is more, like the parcels are more dense.
Okay.
And I mean, it's up to the committee, obviously, but my thought was trying to figure out where we could capture a dense area, you know, maybe somewhere in this area, but then also try to extend, you know, south and north where it's not as dense to kind of get a good cross-section of the town. Because if you just did it in this like little peninsula area, you're gonna pick up a lot of premises, but it's gonna be, you know, it's all tightly compacted
Is that
there.
just
Peter,
Here.
what's that spot right there to the
Right
left?
here?
Nope, come
There?
down, nope, right there.
I don't know, we can zoom in and see.
Isn't that where all those houses that don't have basements is?
Yeah.
So that's a pretty dense area right there.
Right.
That's- I know where that is,
Yeah.
right?
is that Marymount?
I think, I mean, I wanna say this is like Bliss Corner over here.
Yeah.
So if you try to, I mean, this is probably, yeah, somewhere right in this area.
Yeah, that looks like a good place to actually do it right there, because then it just opens right up after that,
You know,
just
so,
south of it.
I mean, I think, Brad, you're right, that we can just fine tune this, but I think if the committee is okay with the kind of general, like what we're trying to figure out, because like I said, you can see that down here where it really opens up, so having at least some data from down here would be nice too, so just figuring out, and the other thing that, Brad said is they really looking for a contiguous.
Where's Fawn's Corner on that map?
Up top.
Yeah, this is probably Route 6 right here, right?
9.
Or the highway, one or the other. I don't think that's the problem, like, I don't know that
Probably
there's,
want to include the areas where the businesses are. I mean, Fawn's Corner and that area.
see if I click on I haven't used this map enough to actually, I was just showing it today because I asked somebody like, how can I get so I'm sure we can play with this map a little bit more, but,
Yeah, that looks great. I mean, if you want to just give us a general idea and say, you know, we're thinking roughly from here to here or this, then I can, like I say, I can take that to BRE and say, okay, based on that, we want to come up with approximately 5,000 premises. So if the area you show is 4,000 premises, we can extend it.
Yeah.
If it's 5,500, we'll just kind of condense it, but we can condense it where it looks logically. We can still extrapolate, I think, to a reasonable level of accuracy the rest of the community, because we know the square footage of all the areas and we can get the densities. So we can look at it and say, okay, the area that we looked at has approximately this many premises per square mile, and the rest of the town has this many premises per square mile. So it'll give us a reasonable idea.
That's something that we're gonna have to play with.
Yeah.
And then get the data to them.
Right.
We can figure out the streets and figure out the sections and stuff, right? Okay.
well, yeah, I can work with Brad to try to figure out like an area and then just send it by all you and then have you individually respond to me and say, yes, that's great. If not,
Yeah.
then we can.
I'm
try to
you know,
rework
just
it.
looking at what you're putting up there, I'm seeing some different areas that can probably work. And
Yeah, and the only reason for it being contiguous is that their design is going to require fiber to start somewhere and get everywhere. And so when they kick it out, if we jump from the south end to the north end and have a big gap, then it's going to include all the footage of getting from the south end to the north end. And not that we can't cut that out, but that's really the reason for having it being contiguous, if possible. If that doesn't make sense, and you say we'd really rather do 2,500 premises up here and 2,500 premises over there, we can work with that.
No, it's just a sample size, right? So you can extrapolate the information. So it really doesn't matter where we are as long as there's the right mix and the right density, correct?
Exactly.
Correct, of the right mix of businesses and whatnot. Then, maybe it does make sense to do like the Dartmouth Street area down to Bliss Corner, because then you've got businesses and residential. If you do the Marymount, you don't have businesses. You've got a stronger residential, but you don't have a mix. That's the only thing.
I understand what you're saying. I got you. But I also like the idea where we can do two parts. Because that's the geographics that we're dealing with, is that you get that whole left side that's just empty. There's nothing there. So for us to actually consider any of that is impossible. Where if we could take a snippet of the Bliss Corner area and then take a snippet up north somewhere.
Yeah, but what they're saying is they want it contiguous so that.
Well, he said we can split it.
Yeah, I said ideally contiguous, sorry, but,
Right.
but we'll work with whatever you guys feel makes the best representation.
Yeah, 'cause
We
I
will work.
mean,
I guess this area too, as you get into this area, is probably, I know it's not the north end of town, but it's probably just as sparsely, populated as the north end of town.
Yeah.
So if you did this whole Dartmouth Street and came down into this area,
down into the village.
right, you would get the less densely populated areas like within
Way
here,
down.
but it's all contiguous because you'll
Yeah.
have the businesses in this area, you'll have the houses in this area, so
Yep.
it's more of a cross section of town. I get that.
Yep.
And so, like I said, and then if
What are
you
you,
just,
what are you thinking? Like maybe starting in like Rockdale at the Cumberland Farms?
Yeah.
And then just come straight down Dartmouth Street all the way
Right,
down
and then as
past
far-
St. Mary's Church.
and then as far
through
west
the
as you can
village.
go, as far west and south as you can go.
Yeah. Okay.
To because then, like I said, you get into this area, you can see it's all sparse
Yep.
down here, and it's basically the same look as the north end.
Yeah.
The only difference is depending on where they consider the hub site to be, is gonna, the hub site, right now, the only thought that we own the property is obviously here, making this the hub site, so we're a lot closer to the south end of town, into Bliss
Well, you're
Corner.
gonna need a couple. I would assume you're gonna have head sites, and I would assume at the schools.
Right,
Those are the only buildings that
yeah.
we would own.
Yeah, the schools, the water, I think the water treatment
Yeah,
places.
water treatment.
Like DPW, I know DPW has like a water plant up here somewhere, like off of Old Fall River Road. They have one off of Old Westport Road, so,
Some fire
yeah.
too.
So,
All right.
all right, so, I need to work on, well, you guys will have to make a motion to say you wanna go with this first, but.
Yeah,
You wanna do
I make a
right.
motion that we go with the contiguous, just finding an area.
I second.
So you wanna call for a vote?
Yeah, call for a vote. Aye.
Great.
Okay.
All right, so Brad, I will have to just ask our town administrator or our financial people how we do this. I believe it would be like a change order type thing, so I'm not sure if that's how you guys have done it in the past. But you'll have to submit it and I'll have to get it signed off by them before we can officially do it.
Yeah, I think typically we've done an addendum, but we can, ask them and let me know whatever you need to see from us.
Let me follow up with them and figure that out, and then, I mean, I think we can put it in writing, kind of like the area that we were just talking about, and then, I think we leave it up to you guys to say, we'd obviously like to get as much as we can, and, we're stuck by the $5,000, that's what we have, we don't have a penny more, so we can.
Got it.
So whatever they can do for 5,000, that's what it is.
That's what we'll do, and like I say, if it makes sense to, we'll talk through with them, and if it makes sense to add a little area, we'll negotiate the best we can.
Okay. Great.
Peter, do you know when the last time this map was updated?
I believe this parcel map is updated all the time. Like I said, somebody just turned me onto it today. So, I've never played with this map to,
Same map.
No, I know. I'm just curious how old this is because, you know, there's been developments in several different parts of town. I just want to make sure that that's represented.
Right.
And I know that there are also proposals, but they can't go through because of the sewer.
Right.
yeah, it definitely wouldn't show proposals. I can tell you that, like if you're subdividing a land for proposal. But even that, this showing the map, like the lots, I don't know if it shows how many premises, like if there's an apartment complex on, say, this, that has 20 people, I don't know that it's gonna show that.
No.
It's just gonna show the one lot, so, and there might be a better map that I can try to find too. Like I said, this just came up about 3 o'clock this afternoon, I was trying to
Okay.
ask a few people and haven't had time to play with it, so.
Yeah, if you could just verify that that's, I don't know if they update it monthly, weekly, yearly,
I can let you guys know.
based on the census, I don't know what.
Oh, this one was done on June 6, 2023.
Okay.
Yeah. It's essentially the same map. It shows all the parcels. If you look close enough, you can see them.
Okay.
Maybe we can gather around it and take a peek.
After. All right. Great.
All right.
All right, I think that's it for us today. Peter, once we finalize this, that's when I'd like to set up the public works calls, so I'll work with you on that.
Okay.
And then you can reach out to any committee members that may want to listen in on that call. But my hope is that if we can get this finalized here in the near future, we can have this study done before the next call and actually have, before the next meeting, sorry, and actually have some preliminary report information to you.
Okay.
So you can start looking at the formats and saying, yes, I like this, no, I don't like this, change that type of thing, so.
All right. And if you could just send me I think we've talked about this, like a list of what topics you want to cover with the DPW. I just want to make sure the right people are at that meeting, because, like I said, our town is feel like our town's a little strange as far as how it parcels out some things. Some people might think it was all from the DPW, but, some are under the jurisdiction of the planning, some are under this jurisdiction, so getting, just the topics, so this way I can make sure the right people are at the meeting.
Yeah, that's what I'd like to do. Once we finalize this, I'll have our engineering guys meet with the BRE guys and just make sure we have a general idea of what questions, but there may be some that come up based on the area that we come up with.
I grew up
Right.
So
right here.
as soon as we get that, I will get you those questions.
Yeah, like I said, it's more just a general topic, so this way I can make sure we have the right people in the room, because even within our DPW, there's like people that are more qualified than others, so we just want to make sure the right people are there.
Got it. Perfect.
Great.
All right.
All right.
I think that's all we had for you guys.
Thank you very much for your
Okay.
time.
Thank you, everybody. Happy Valentine's Day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, do you guys want to continue this discussion as far as figuring out what we want to do, what part of town we want to do, or do you want to wait till Peter comes up with something?
Well, I think you guys kind of said like Dartmouth Street / Rockdale, down
It's a
into
good mix of
Bliss
residential
Corner,
and
and then go left. It's up to you if you want. I know you.
See, I'm looking at the map here. All right, so this is Dartmouth Street coming down here. All right, and it ends up in the village, which is a lot of people in the village. It gets sparse is over here, on the other side. So I'm wondering if we just like through here.
Will the water create a problem?
I didn't ask that question.
Actually, maybe the water helps because again, they would have to figure out how to.
So you can see all the parcels, right? So here's Allen
Where's-
Street, here's
Just
Slocum
to
Road.
ground me, where's Route 6?
Route 6
Is
is
that
Right around that purple area, yeah.
right here. This is Route 6.
And Fons Corner?
Fonts Corner, this is Crossroad.
So just to the, yeah.
Right here, Fonts Corner.
Okay.
Okay, so this is Route 6, this is Fonts Corner here. I mean, there's a lot here, and there's businesses here as well. But you can pick up UMass Dartmouth with that.
What if you went that way?
This way,
Nope, going,
this way.
top it, sorry, too short,
That's right.
that way.
That come, alright, I see what you're saying. There's a lot here.
Well, I probably wouldn't go north, I would go like in that, I mean, you could either do this area and go up here, and then you're getting a little bit more sparse in this. Or
Right.
Go that area, and then you've got, you know, a couple of the developments, and then some sparser area.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
I mean,
I-
think either
I was
potato,
under the
potato.
assumption of getting some of both. That's what I think that they'll, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think
Sparse
that's what they're
and-
trying to get dense and sparse. You know what I mean?
But also a mix of residential and commercial.
Right, like you said, come down Dartmouth Street, that's all businesses along here.
Yeah, I think that's the ideal
Right.
route.
The only thing is
I
we're
mean,
crossing this Yaponigantic Bay and coming into the sparse area, which is right through here, the Gulf Road area, even though there's that development that we saw on the map. With those that have no basements.
Yeah, they're all
which is
slab,
right there.
slab built
So if
houses.
we avoid them and come down into the here, I think we might get what we're looking for, the data. But again,
Okay.
if you see somewhere else on the map, that might come close to getting it.
It's just a sample, it doesn't matter, so
True
wherever,
story, true
wherever
story.
it goes, it's fine.
Right. But again, was it, how many parcels they say they needed?
It's about, well, with the,
Dollar.
it's just over $1 a parcel, so it's
Say
it's just,
4,000.
yeah, about 4,100, I think, is the number that, 41 to 4,200. I mean, I think they're gonna push for around 5,000, I'm hoping. You know,
They
and
might
they,
even go Bliss Corner like up, north. Just to get, if there's not 4,000 that way, they might have to go north. So like if you go to the yellow and then the light blue,
Here,
yeah, kind of, they might have to,
okay,
which is less populated than the other.
okay.
I don't, we should just,
I wish we could just punch in 4,000 parcels and.
well, that's, I'm gonna try to play with this map a little bit more and see if I can figure
Right.
that out, like if we can like select like a whole area and say how many parcels are within this.
Yeah, but
Also talk to like the assessors and they might have
they
some
might,
other.
yeah, they would.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I seem to remember that one of them, I don't know if it was Quanta or BRE, they actually have it where they can actually just like, you know, like you can just square off a section.
Oh, I'm sure
and
that's what they're
count
gonna
it.
do, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm
that's-
saying.
Yeah, that's what they're gonna end up doing,
Yeah.
but.
Yeah.
The town must have that software somewhere that we can do the same thing.
Okay.
And I could,
Okay.
and,
I
and,
bet the assessors
yeah,
got it.
yeah. So
Alright.
I can try to follow up them the next day or two and figure, like I said, I just didn't, I figured if we just did say like this area, you know, that might take your 4,000 spots right away and
Yeah.
you're doing like one tiny area of the town. That was my only concern, like I thought getting a wider variety of the town. So, you know, if you took 2,000 spots here and then got another
You wanna go
2,000
east-
by, right,
You might
east-west.
even go east-west and just do
Right.
it.
Yeah, straight
Like almost straight line right here,
Right through here.
you know,
Yeah.
because again, this does have the cross-section of businesses and, you know, residents. There are businesses along, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, Dartmouth Street there. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we don't think of them as the big businesses that are along Route 6, but it's.
They're businesses
they're
nonetheless. Yeah.
You know,
Agreed.
Well, and they're bigger businesses, you've got banks, you've got restaurants, you've got, you know, like,
Pickleball USA.
pickleball, you know, the gyms, I mean, you know, they're.
yeah, originally when I was thinking more like in this area, you know, right along Route 6, and then go as far north and as far south as you could go.
Yeah,
You know, that was, because I figured that, you know, that if you went towards more the middle of Dartmouth and went like north-south as much as you could do, then you would get the medical complexes, and then also then you're doing a study north and south, not just in the south, and
Yeah.
hearing that argument of,
No,
even though the study is just supposed to be you know, like the geographics are really not part of it. It's more of a,
So basically, he's talking the pink area with some green.
yeah, almost start right on, like, right up
Seabury
with,
Heights neighborhood behind the mall.
with like Fons Corner Road, like, you know, Fons Corner Road, kind of using that as the middle.
You live in Seabury Heights?
I live in the development just outside of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so right over here, this looks pretty dense.
It is, well, it is dense area, yeah.
It's the
That's what I was
best trick or
thinking, too.
treating neighborhood.
Yeah.
And then that runs you up the Fons Corner Business District.
Yep.
Right.
Into a very sparsely populated
Right.
up here, and very sparsely populated here, so this Fons Corner Road corridor kinda makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, cause you got businesses as well, and the
Yeah.
big businesses, alright, and then you get spots population, so it's kinda like
Yeah,
a
that-
micro version of the whole community.
That's what I was, when
Yeah.
I was saying up there, that's why, was because you do have the developments that are there, you know, around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought that like you had densely developed and
Yep.
then you quickly get to sparse.
Yep.
Whereas the Bliss Corner area, you're dense.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you are.
As
So,
soon as you cross the railroad tracks on Fons Corner Road, it starts getting sparse.
Starts to, yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
It's very quickly.
Interesting hypothetical, completely off from this, just from looking at a map.
But
Well,
they've got, like,
before we,
songbird.
but is there anything else,
Songbirds
before I
up
change
there,
gears
which is
on us?
dense, too.
What were you gonna say, Bud?
No, before I change gears, just continue this, because I was just gonna change gears for a second, but, hypothetically, if this were to happen, and there was a municipal broadband, I didn't realize that quite a few businesses from a New Bedford Industrial Park are actually in Dartmouth.
Yes.
oh yeah.
So what happens? We go into the industrial park with fiber optic and cut it off on the line, so like Titleist gets it, but then the next business over in New Bedford doesn't? Like,
Oh,
that'll
you-
cause
oh,
a,
my
that'll
friend.
cause a,
That's where the regional aspect comes
Yeah.
in.
Right, right.
which is kind of funny, just look, as like I said, Titleist is technically
Yeah.
here, and then
One
next
is in
door you got
Dartmouth and one's in
Eastern
New Bedford.
Fisheries is in, it's like, sorry, we can get fiber, but you can't, because, you know,
Yeah. Right. Agreed. And in essence, because since,
Usually what they do is they'll go into some sort of agreement with
Right.
whoever's laying the fiber, and they'll have the fiber
Yeah.
brought to
Right.
them.
Yeah.
So we'll go over the boundaries. We wouldn't be paying for it, but they would, special
Right.
construction.
but at the same time, you're gonna have New Bedford who's gonna cater to the industrial park with their own system, and it just makes sense for everybody to just work together. It
Well, and
just-
the other thing is, I'm assuming the industrial park is not public streets, so they probably pay for their own infrastructure going in there. And so again, we could sell them the service coming in from Dartmouth. Like they
And feed
could,
the rest.
we could
Yeah.
feed them
Yeah,
a
Samuel
fiber to
Barnett
get them on our
Boulevard.
network and they can build their infrastructure.
that's Samuel
Yeah, and-
Barnett Boulevard, that's,
In places like that, they're gonna need dual fiber for diversity.
We used to drag race up by the old Titleist, and one day a Dartmouth cop came down and he blocked the road, and he's like, okay, listen, guys, you're in Dartmouth right now. That means I gotta drive all the way from over there, all the way around to come up here and tell you guys to get out of here. So go hang on that other side of the industrial park. All right. So, yeah, so I think we can all pretty much agree on that whole Fons Corner corridor, right?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
north and south?
Yeah, I think that'll work, Peter.
Right. I will, once I get something from them anyway, I'll send it to you all, and then if you have suggestions, like I said, just reply individually to me, and I can, you know, redraw the boundaries if you think there's anything.
All right, so up next is an update on the Mass Broadband Coalition event that our fine man Peter Chase attended today.
So, I will, they recorded the meeting, so when I get the recording link, I can forward it to you, but, it was a Gigi Soon that was been in the area, I guess she was nominated by President Biden to join the FCC back in October of '21. After 16 months of not getting a hearing on getting appointed, she withdrew her thing. I guess she's well-known in the area. She has a nonprofit that helps a lot of municipalities. You know, she's a big advocate for getting community fiber, locally owned, not privately owned. She has a lot of good ideas. I didn't quite get the name of her organization that she's running now, but you know, she talked about how there's dark money involved, like when you start getting into the final stages of building that, you know, there's companies out there that are funneling dark money into fighting against you, and that's one thing that her organization, she said she's very proud of, and she'll help like beat the dark money back, you know, and give you the talking points that you need, give you the ammunition, like, and she'll even like, you know, write letters to the editor in your paper for you to kind of like try to push back on the companies that are doing it. So she seems like a good advocate that, you know, like I said, it's worth listening to her talk about it. You can hear some of her ideas, and as soon as I get that, I'll you know, some of her ideas was, you know, community support, try to get, you know, and I think we're not there yet, but we should start thinking of it, is, you know, all the different community groups that meet, figuring out how to reach out to them and go to them and make some presentations in front of them, just telling them, you know, like who we are, what we're looking to do, to try to get as much support as you can, because she brought up, I forgot where it was, but she brought up one place that just started hitting the ground. I don't think it was locally, it was somewhere else. And the community was all set to build their fiber, and then, you know, this dark money came in, they went around, had a petition that they were asking people to sign, that basically was gonna make what the local town already put on and already approved, put it on the state ballot like 8 months later, and it was gonna end up costing the community like $2-3 million in delays if they got it. And so when they started fighting back and telling the people like, hey, this isn't, you know, the people that walked around asking you for your signatures are really the enemy, like, you know, the competition, they got some people to pull their name off the you know, that they signed up to put it on the ballot, and the thing ended up failing. And I guess the reason was because the community did a great job as far as building support ahead of time. So,
Laying the groundwork and communicating.
right, communicating and going out to like the Rotary Club, the PTOs, the any other clubs that you can think of that you can try to get support, like go down to the Council on Aging and talk there a couple more times and get them involved, and to make sure they have the right information.
Right.
You know, that's because, yeah, when they come in, they're hitting their talking points of, oh, well, look at this community that 20 years ago tried doing fiber and it failed and it cost the municipality a bunch of money. You're just wasting, you know, there were those back in the day. I'm sure there's gonna be a couple more in the future, but, you know, it's not the norm now. It's that, you know, there's a lot more places that are doing it, and so that was one of her points.
Yeah, I'd be curious to watch that.
Yeah,
When the link's available, let me know.
so
I'd like to listen to that.
I will forward the links to you guys when it's available. But yeah, that's it on that one.
Alrighty then, so next is the approval of minutes.
I would suggest that you just put that off, because I know Sarah wouldn't be able to vote on one of them, and you guys won't have a quorum to
Yep.
vote on the
Okay.
second one, and there are a
Thank you,
couple,
Peter.
and there are a couple, changes that I'll talk to Aaron about for the January ones, that I think there's a few things missing, so I would just skip it right now.
Alright. There is one thing that I would like to bring up that I didn't put on the schedule because it's something that recently came to my attention. Well, it's not something that's recently come to my attention, but something I've been thinking about, and I'm actually gonna put it in play, but I am going to be moving.
Oh,
I'm gonna be moving out of Dartmouth. I'm gonna be moving up to Malden.
wow.
So I am going to be resigning from the committee. I'm not 100% sure when exactly, but I know when, I got a good idea when I'll be moving out. But I would like to get the ball rolling. If you know anybody, or if you know anybody, or if Mr. Oliver knows anybody who wants to join this committee, I would like it so that way it's a smooth transition instead of there being a void. I walk out, the person comes walking in, and we can get that, you know, taken care of through the select board, because they have to be appointed, of course. But I wanted to let you guys know that I'm gonna be stepping away, unfortunately, as much as I love doing this, and I've enjoyed meeting all of you and talking to you and learning from all of you. But yeah, if you know anybody that's interested in getting involved, have a conversation with them so we can get again, so we can make the transition as smooth as possible. And Peter, thank you
Yo,
for everything.
thank you for your service.
No. I have said it before, I'll say it again, but you have been the driving, you're doing the grunt of the work. And this town owes you a lot. And for me, thank you very, very much for what you're doing, because this is a very important project. It's very important for this community. It's important for this entire region. I've been after this for a lot of years, and so to walk away now is kind of a little, it's making me a little sad, because it's just now gonna get interesting, but, you know, I have to do what I have to do, and I'm gonna, I don't know, I've actually been thinking of maybe, lighting a fire in Malden when I get there, and start it all over again, but.
So I would suggest, as soon as you know kind of the date, you we'll need an official letter from you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
To the select board stating, because technically no one can really submit an application until they have a date for you.
Right, but I would like to,
Yep.
you know, have somebody
Plant
in
the
place.
seeds.
Right, yeah.
Right?
Plant the seeds
Right.
for us to.
Exactly, I did, let's see if we can get somebody to go, yep, I'm in, and then the moment somebody comes to me or sends me an email, a text message saying, hey, I've got somebody, they're in, they're committed, all right, I will type up my
Well, it's
letter.
still, like I said, it's still, the select board's still gonna have to post it to the general
Yes,
public.
agreed.
So that's still like 2 or 3 weeks that it's gotta be out there in the general
Right.
public, so that's
Right.
why I'm saying, like, I think it's a great idea that we ask everyone on the committee to reach out to people and see, but it's still gonna, you know, and it's ultimately the select board's decision.
Oh, absolutely, agreed,
it's-
agreed.
There is a
I just
process
don't
of-
wanna see the void.
Yep, yep.
You know what I mean, cause this requires energy, this requires tenacity to keep it going, so I just trying to make the transition as smooth as
Which
possible.
the other thing is with the survey, I can ask them too, if they have anyone that filled out the keep us in contact. Cause we could also send something out to, cause if somebody filled out the contact form, that they were interested,
Okay,
you know, asking whoever's filled out that contact form if they're interested in joining the committee,
yep.
might be another way to
Exactly.
try to solicitate some
Whatever,
experience.
whatever, whatever.
There was a
I-
few gentlemen that were here on the night that we had the open,
Yes,
that maybe some of those,
yeah, there was a couple of people that were pretty
yeah, that were
involved.
like
in-
involved in IT
Yeah.
stuff for their, like I think one was like a server farm operator or something,
Yep.
and when somebody was on, so, I mean, having the technical knowledge is
Absolutely, it's key.
help.
Yep, so I just wanted to let you all know of my plans, and so again, I'm just thinking of the committee as far as setting things as right as possible and as smoothly, make the transition as smooth as possible, so.
Thank you.
That's a big move. You've been in Dartmouth for a long time.
Yeah, I've been here since, geez, October of 2001. I can see myself
That
upstairs.
was a turbulent time. Jesus.
Actually, you know, I was just about to say, I remember, that was, actually, it wasn't October, it was September, because I moved in July, actually, because I remember September, I was still remodeling the house, and I'm upstairs painting the wall, crying, as Brokaw's on the TV behind me, talking about what happened that day. Yeah, it was a long time ago. I raised my kids here, that's why it's, and I still have family here. I have family, I have friends. This is, just because I'm walking away from the community doesn't mean I'm walking away from my love for this area. So, you know, I just want to keep this thing rolling because it's important.
Peter, I
So-
have a question.
Yep.
Are you okay?
Yeah, by all
Okay,
means.
good. At one point, you had mentioned that the consultants were going to give options on how municipalities fund these type of operations. We still haven't seen that. Is that something?
I'm
that-
hoping that's in the final report, and that's what I'll discuss with them, but I believe that's all part of the final, like,
Okay.
financial plan of the report.
All right. I hope that it's more of a discussion, where we can ask questions, because, you know, we all know that's the $1 million, $2 million, $25 million question. We might, you know, so we'll need to know that's, I think, the big gorilla in the room.
So, and on that point, one thing I forgot, and I was gonna bring up because it really technically wasn't about the coalition event, it was after. Saul has been always a proponent of doing like a regional approach. And so we've had some close ties with Fairhaven, Westport at one point. And so I was at this event today, it was hosted by Fairhaven. And so I was talking to the gentleman at Fairhaven that's running Fairhaven's, that's pushing Fairhaven's part. And we'd like to try to get a southeastern group together, and meet, and do something, and at least start the discussion. You know, see like, you know, Mattapoisett, Fairhaven, you know, Cushing if they wanna come in, New Bedford, cause, you know, they're on the south coast, us, maybe even Westport, and reach out to a couple other communities within the Serped, group. I don't know if you all, know what Serped is, but it's basically a regional planning district, economic and planning that Bristol County belongs to.
Okay.
You know, communities within Bristol County. So we'd like to see if there's a way that we could look at a funding plan, or like a, you know, also how do you fund projects like this? Is there, you know, doing financial studies, like better in-depth financial studies on it? And figuring out if there is a true regionalization way that it would work.
Are any of our representatives like Mark Montig involved?
We would also wanna include all of them, so we
If-
could, so, cause I mean, we were talking, like today during the meeting, you know, they were talking, the Cape is kind of like ahead of us. Falmouth is like on the precipice of moving ahead, and so, you know, like I've heard from them, like they said, oh yeah, well, we need to do this study that costs $100,000, and we talked to our state legislator, and we got $100,000 like 2 months later to do the study.
Right.
And so that's what I wanna start trying to see about tapping into, cause that's gonna be your next step. You're gonna get this study, you're gonna be overwhelmed by the numbers, but you're still gonna need more numbers, you're still gonna need like better numbers to go forward. And you're gonna need to spend more money on a plan, like on that part of the plan. And so to get to that level, you're gonna need much more money, and, you know, I don't think the town's gonna be able to put in that money to even get to that next step. So I think we're gonna have to start looking for funding sooner than later.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think if we could, you know, my idea is if we could get Serped involved. I know Serped has, like, they're starting to do some stuff with broadband, and they have like a fellowship through a broadband, you know, the MBI there, and the national group. So I know they're kind of looking for that for stuff for that person to do right now. So I figure maybe we could get something in, like, and have them at least start looking and building like RFPs or RFIs, they're all like requests for proposals and stuff, to at least start getting numbers on what we're looking at. And then them also being able to either, like, them as a regional group might be able to get a better grant than us as an individual. You know, and even if we're part of a regional plan, we could extract our area out of that plan. You know, cause they're still gonna say like, oh, well, Dartmouth's gonna cost this much, Bedford's gonna cost
Right.
this much, and so we'd still get the numbers.
Yeah, but the economies of scale.
Right.
So you brought up something that reminded me of a conversation I had recently with someone else, and it was suggested to me that the smart thing to do, because when you start talking regional, everybody talks regional, but nobody actually
No.
does anything. So what I would
You
propose,
remember that I'm from Verizon, right?
Right.
That's why we don't have FiOS here, is because nobody acts regionally.
right, okay, so, I think that the smart thing for us to do is to take the lead. And what I mean by that is that the Dartmouth Municipal Broadband Committee composes a letter and send it to all the pertaining parties. The chair of the Fairhaven Board Committee, chair of the Westport Committee, chair of the New Bedford Committee, Montigny, Markey, city councilors, select board members, Chamber of Commerce, and say, hey, this is what we want to do. We all need to get in a room and discuss this and come up with something. Either we're gonna work together or we're not, but we at least have to lock ourselves in a room and have a discussion. And I think that if we take the charge, at least we're doing the right thing by everybody. So I believe in order for that to happen, we would have to have a vote on that, correct? In order for us to draft a letter, right? So I make a motion for this committee to draft a letter to send to the surrounding communities for a regional meeting. Can I get a second?
It's not gonna hurt. Second?
Full aye? Aye, all right, so Peter. I'm a fairly good wordsmith. I know you're a good wordsmith. How about yourself, Sarah?
Sure, yeah.
I think that if we work on it collectively, we can get it in a very well-done way. Just like grant writing, you gotta make sure you cross all your Ts and dot your Is and stuff, because now that we're getting into this realm, we have to make, it just can't be just, hey, guys, let's all get together on September 12th.
Do we need, the communications person?
We can ask her.
I don't know if she needs to be, I just didn't wanna,
No.
ice anyone out and,
No.
No, no, no.
have them.
No.
I agree. Because she helped us with the survey, did she not?
Right, yep.
She did a really good job with it.
Yeah.
So maybe we can lean into that and see what she can come up with, and then we can fine tune it ourselves. What I will do is I will find all the pertinent people. Now, should we send that in an actual letter or just an email? I mean, I'll pay for the letters.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think we could just send it in an email.
Send it in an email?
I don't know how regional type of correspondences are
Right,
usually
exactly.
handled.
I can ask, the gentleman from Fairhaven, cause he, like I said, he kinda oversees that Massachusetts Broadband
Coalition, yeah, so he knows everybody involved,
Right.
right? Yeah.
So I can also ask him.
Does Acushnet have anything going on? I've never heard
I
anything
haven't
about
heard
that.
anything from Acushnet, but.
No.
Chris might know, cause he was talking
Yeah.
about them doing something.
Yeah.
Oliver?
Yeah, Chris used to work in Acushnet. He was the IT director for the school system until he moved to Bourne or
Yeah.
down the Cape. Well, until he moved job down to the Cape.
All right, so see what you can get from him as far as heads of the committees, individual committees. And I will comb through all the other ends, like the Chamber of Commerce and,
Yeah,
you know.
I think,
It would be great to get the mayor to sit on it. I might actually pull the trigger on that one. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try. I got an idea. I'll let you guys know how I make up. But yeah, I do think that we have to, we're at the point now. We've got the survey in our pocket, we've got the data. Community said yes. So we might as well try to leapfrog now and try to hit the accelerator and try to catch up to everybody else and see if we can work. Because I mean, if we work regionally, we'll catch up with everybody else and we just run faster that way.
yeah, my thought was trying to have a meeting like, in April, if
Right.
not March,
Yeah,
the end of March if we could.
Yep.
But, try to like really just get the ball rolling. And like I said, it's more also getting the local delegation to the meeting, the local state delegation, and asking them, how do they see that we could get funding for these types of, or what's the steps on, and then, like I said, working with Serped maybe to maybe lead it all, because that's the two big things is who can manage all this information and kind of oversee it, because not one community is gonna be able to oversee it, like we can't do it, Fairhaven can't do it.
Right.
It's just too much for one community to kind of pull it all together, so you need somebody that's used to doing these regional reports.
Do we know, I know that this was a long time ago, when I was at UMass doing my master's, well, and actually, when I taught there for the semester, my professor took a sabbatical, they had a group that did ICT readiness, so, information communication technology readiness. And I'm wondering if they continued with that type of group? Because it was supposed to be the entire South Coast region that they were looking at.
I can try to reach out to UMass and ask.
It would be the Charlton School that would have led it. And that's the problem with the regional, right, is that to your point, is that there's not one person or group that can handle the whole thing. There's not like a regional operator.
Right.
That's why I think the only way, like, the towns and cities all pay into Serped. And so it's kind of like an organization funded by these communities, so. Like, I know, like, the way I understand it works is, like, each community has so much time allocated to them. And so they could allocate some of their time, or just Serped steps in and say, oh, no, we think this is great for the whole area, so we're gonna expand the survey for like all these communities, and we'll do it at our costs, and like I said, they go out and get the grants to pay for it, they go out and get the funding for it, and them applying for a grant is a lot easier than us applying for a
Sure,
grant.
yeah.
Because they have their own grant writers on staff that are getting these grants and know about all these grants all over the place, so they should be able to pull the funding
Right.
and and pull it together better than any of us could,
Agreed,
so.
agreed. All right, anything else? No? All right.
Right now, the next meeting is scheduled for March 13th.
Now, will you be, like, are you leaving within weeks or
No,
months,
no.
or?
May,
Oh, okay.
May 1st. May 1st, so we got some time. So I will be, excuse me, I'll continue working and, until I can't, because moving to Malden's gonna be a
Yeah.
pretty big endeavor, so I'll figure it out somehow, some way, but I should definitely make the next, March, April meeting. And then I'll probably bid adieu to everyone, but I'll still be paying attention. I mean, YouTube is everywhere. I can watch it on YouTube,
So yeah, what I would say is if you could get a letter to the select board saying that as of May 1st, you're
Yeah.
by like the middle of March, so this way hopefully they can get it posted on their agenda, get the word out, and then make their appointment in the middle of April. That would work great.
Okay, actually, I was gonna ask you the best course of action, and you just gave it to me, so I'll get the letter together and I'll send, I gotta send it off to
Should be to Sean.
Sean, right?
McGinnis,
Sean
or Dave Tattlebaum is the chair of the select board.
Chair.
But through Sean. Sean
Okay.
is the town administrator, so I think he accepts like all the,
Okay,
we can talk about it.
all right, I make a motion to adjourn this meeting. Second. Everybody in favor, say aye. Aye. I remembered it this time.